everybody, and welcome back to a new episode of the Whiskey Boy podcast, or what do we call it? The Whiskey Lounge. I am not here with many people today, just my friend Nick, and neither of us know how to stream, so we are recording this at the time that we normally stream to be uploaded for your convenience at a later date. Nick?
Yeah, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to another special episode of the Whiskey Lounge. It's going to be a good one today, talking about Civil War. Put on your tinfoil hats, so we'll go ahead and start taking shots because it seems to be a topic that comes around a whole lot with us. At least with me, I should say.
Certainly not with me, not too often. I think there are other fish to fry, but we can certainly go into this considering there's certainly something resembling a, I guess you can say, catalyst event in Atlanta.
Oh yes, what's going on in Atlanta right now is just the newest nail into the coffin. It is the most recent of the chain of events that have been spanning back for several years, at least ever since I started getting more active, trying to read the news and try to stay informed about what's been going on. This to me just seems like the most egregious event that has happened thus far, just from the sheer scope and the sheer number of people who just blatantly attacked the cop city, as they have been dubbing.
Yeah, I mean, I showed you that aerial view that you haven't seen. It was 150 some odd people um, marching up there to siege the place. Attack is an understatement. They sieged the place. They went up there with pipe bombs and fire bombs, and I think some fireworks, and so the media can say they were just using fireworks. If firework is still an explosive, CNN. There's also something about a lawyer that went up there just to watch or something. They were still trespassing. They were trying to argue they shouldn't be criminally charged because they were a bystander. Very, very interesting. Very ridiculous. Very interesting.
Yeah, so the lawyer that you're talking about, he was a member of the Southern Poverty Law Center. Supposedly, he was just supposed to be there as a witness to be able to give legal advice to the people who were committing these crimes. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to bury the lead. They were committing crimes. They were going out of their way to cause chaos and destruction, throwing Molotov cocktails and using explosive devices such as the fireworks, shooting them at police officers, shooting them into the construction grounds for this new training facility. And yes, he was arrested for it, and I believe he is being charged as well with the domestic terrorism charges.
That I don't know for sure. I just heard the story in its early stages. I mean, I would hope some like 36 people or so were charged with domestic terrorism last time I checked, but that was even before, or actually, no, it wasn't before. I think the article just came out after, with the people marching up there with the aerial view. Yeah, this is certainly different. I mean, very ironic considering last week a few of us were very adamant, me and Trevor in particular, that Civil War is not going to happen, not for a while. And I think maybe we were looking at it in too much of a traditional like American Civil War sense rather than a traditional Civil War sense. At the same time, though, I think the violence of Antifa is too mindless now to really be called a civil war. I think it can certainly be a precursor, but I think it's too mindless. Sure, it's still organized, but you just have the people who were, for the last 8 years, listening to their crazy parents say to them, Donald Trump is bad. You gotta avoid Donald Trump. You gotta stop Donald Trump. He's evil. Fox News. And those people are starting to become 17, 18, and so they're just entering into these ideological battlefields with no actual know-how of what the hell they're talking about. Just sort of violent for the sake of being violent because cops bad, Donald Trump bad, Fox News bad, anything to the right bad.
Well, now, I do agree with you that a lot of it does seem disorganized. I'm of the opinion that it is disorganized for a reason. You always see in these kind of events when you see in these kind of quote unquote protests, as CNN loves to call it. Fiery but mostly peaceful protests was probably the greatest headline that they have ever written. Anyway, you generally see in these kind of groups is that you always have this shield of quote unquote peaceful protesters. The people that hear that there's going to be a march, that there's going to be a rally, and they just gather and support to just they read it in the newspaper or they read it in an article. Hell, it's not even newspapers anymore. They probably just saw a post on social media, and they're like, "Oh, we're all going to get together and be in unity on this, and we're all told to wear black clad and wear the same color clothing. Okay, let's go so we can show solidarity." You have a large portion of them who show up with quote unquote good intentions. I mean, they're not going there with the intent of doing anything wrong. They're just going for a march. Then you have the next sect, which is smaller than the first sect, but they're the people who are there who like to instigate. They're the people who rile everybody up to try to jump for the chance of chaos, jump for the chance of anarchy if possible,
Yeah, the
and to try
FBI
to
agents.
yes, the FBI agents. January 6th. Anyway, then after that group is a much smaller group. It is what I would call the brains. It's the people who know that they can use all the useless bodies, and I'm going to call them useless bodies because they are there for a purpose, but not the purpose that they originally thought. While all the craziness is going on, while everything is hectic and chaotic, they're the ones to go out and do the damage. They're the ones to go out and throw these Molotovs, throw the bricks in the windows during the Summer of Love. They're the ones to go out and actually do the damage to destroy everything, but they're not the ones to ever get caught. You see that when the police finally react and the police finally go after these mobs of people, they're going after the first group of people, the quote unquote peaceful people who show up to show support for a cause they believe in, even though they don't know much about it. And then when the police start getting these people and riling up and going after them, making them think that they're being attacked for no reason, that's when the brains find those disgruntled people to bring them in to be the next chaotic people in their ranks, to be the next inciters in their ranks, to just keep recruiting more and more and grabbing more and more chaotic people to swell it up so that they can go and do the actual damage. I think it's disorganized for a reason. It's disorganized for the sake of trying to hide who the real brains are.
That's not necessarily what I mean by disorganized. I mean they literally don't know what they're doing and literally don't understand the ideology. It's not a disorganized, it's not a look disorganized, be disorganized type, or not a look disorganized to give the effect of, it's not art of war. If you look disorganized but you are disorganized, your enemy won't know and you'll have the advantage. It's quite literally just, hey, your your dad's been telling you, or your mom's been telling you that Donald Trump is bad for the last 8 years since you were 10 years old. And when you were 10, you had no idea who the fuck Donald Trump was. You still don't know who he was. You think of Donald Trump, and for some reason a picture of Joe Biden shows up. You think Joe Biden's Donald Trump because you don't know what the hell is going on. But you just know you have to be violent because someone told you to be violent. Which, granted, like I said prior, I mean, it can certainly still escalate. I'm sure it will. The ideologies are too polarized to where there's a literal side of good and evil. But and Tifa in particular, I don't think so. I think they're a precursor. I don't think they're don't know what the word would be. They're not it. They're not it, to put it as most people in my generation might put it.
They're the scapegoats. I see Antifa being the scapegoat organization that is doing the bidding of some other power with getting all the, well, I shouldn't say bad publicity because the media always comes out and like shields them and calls them peaceful protesters or just protesters and not what they actually are. They're domestic terrorists. You have 23 of them from the last information that I heard who were charged with domestic terrorism. At this point, they should be labeled as a terrorist organization. You had several people who came from out of the country, not out of state, but you had several Canadians and several French people or people who had French nationality or Canadian nationality, who came to this event to come and siege this training facility. So, in any other sense, if it was any group like the Proud Boys or Patriot Prayer, they would be labeled as a terrorist organization. Hell, I believe it was a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years now, since it's not January 6th anymore. The DOJ had come out with a list and talked about the Proud Boys being a potential terrorist organization. I know Canada came out and called them a terrorist organization.
Yeah, they've been calling the Proud Boys terrorists pretty much since the Proud Boys came to any sort of relevance.
They've been
And
called
and
the
then I think Donald Trump classified Antifa as a terrorist group for a small amount of time.
Oh yeah, I believe he did as well, but then it was just turned around instantly as soon as this new regime came in. And I'm not gonna call it administration. I'm gonna call it regime, just for the sake of argument from all the executive orders that have been pushed through under this regime. Changing everything just at a stroke of a pen, as opposed to letting things go through the correct way that we're supposed to do it, have it go through the legislative branch in order to be able to become law. It's just been written into will. Anyway, that's a
Well,
tangent for another time.
well, yeah. I mean, look at Joe Biden. Look at the photo ops. He's literally Emperor Palpatine. Just if Emperor Palpatine was well, he was decrepit. Just if Emperor Palpatine was a literal idiot.
And not a mastermind. But no,
My resolve, man, has never been stronger.
come on, man. Come on, man.
My resolve, man, has never been stronger.
But no,
The United States of America will be reorganized into the first galactic empire.
threw on Shabbat of pressure. Yeah.
Shout about it.
I do agree with you, to get back on topic, that this is going to escalate. I don't see any other way from it, just looking at the track record. I mean, hell, you can go all the way back to when Victor Chauvin was on trial, where Maxine Waters called for protesters to, quote, get more confrontational, end of quote, if no guilty verdict is reached in the Derek Chauvin trial. She knew what she was doing. She knew all the damage that that the 2020 riots did in the Summer of Love. She
Well,
knew
that was even worse actually. They didn't just want a guilty verdict; they wanted a murder verdict, which was really the problem. Derek Chauvin is guilty of manslaughter. He's not guilty of murder, and that was the real big problem. Is they wanted a murder conviction. That was all they would take. They wouldn't take anything less.
yes, they did want the murder conviction, and I'm not trying to downplay that. I'm trying to play up the fact that she knew all the damage that was
Oh yeah,
caused
no,
during
absolutely.
the riots. I mean, hell, there
Yeah.
were riots going on during the Chauvin trial. There were stories of all the jurors having to be brought to the courthouse under armed guards, driving through the riots. And now he was convicted of manslaughter, and it's done and over with. However, I guarantee those jurors didn't feel safe. They didn't feel that what they were doing was just. You had one woman come out, I believe she stayed anonymous for her own safety, saying that the only reason that she did that is she was afraid that she was going to be next. I mean, throughout the case, you had people who who gave professional testimony for the defense, who had decapitated animals placed on their doorstep for places where they lived. That you had death threats. I mean, it was definitely not what I would call a fair trial. However, he was convicted, so we have to stick with the judicial system for his sentencing and how all that's playing out.
Yeah, I mean, they tried to do the same thing with Kyle Rittenhouse. I was really on the edge of my seat through that whole trial. Unironically, I was sitting. I know exactly where I was when it was found not guilty. I was in my job in the showroom to the shop, and I looked at my manager and I was like, I'm watching this, and I was like, you're not stopping me. I was like, I'm watching this, I have to. And we actually all watched it. They were also very invested in it. And it was beautiful. They were very brave, but I mean, I'm sure the same. I think it was even said that the same like threats were towards them as well.
Oh yes, it is definitely a clown world that we live in. It's a world where people think that they can get away with anything as long as you agree with one side. As long as you're part of the left, you are allowed to say and do whatever you want. But if you say or do the same thing on the right, in with with the context of being conservative or being among the right, you are immediately demonized. You are scrutinized from the word go, no matter what. And
Loud phone.
yes, apologies. I thought it was silent. Anyway, I don't see why there's such a double standard. How there is no double standard. There's only a standard for one side, not the other.
Yeah, sorry, I had to shoot my dog. And they're back. Yeah, I mean they didn't win by being nice. I mean, I'll just say that. I mean, I say it to you all the time. You need to be a little rough. I all the time. No offense, and no harm amongst brothers. But I say it to you all the time. You're a little squishy, in my opinion, on too many things. You almost kind of gotta be violent or vocally violent, I guess you can say, vocally rude or mean or even a little what's the word I would use, extreme in some cases, because that's how we win. And a lot of these issues, there's no room for compromise or anything like that.
I mean, and I'll tell you the same thing that I always tell you whenever we have these conversations in private, is you have to also think about the way that you're going to be presented. You know that these people are willing to lie about you. You know that they're willing to defame you. You know that they're willing to spread smear piece after smear piece after smear piece after you for no matter what you say, whether it's true or not. You have to give them the least amount of ammo as possible. And the way that you reach a broader audience to be able to get your cultural opinions to a larger scale is you have to kind of work in between the lines, but then use other platforms that allow you to speak the way you want to. That's where you start saying things as quote unquote mean as you would put it, to be a little bit more extreme with it. But when you're talking on platforms where it's controlled by the left, like a majority of the mainstream platforms are, you have to walk a very fine line before you can start actually saying your opinion. You have to be able to build up an audience nowadays and let them know where you sit, where you stand, and stay with those virtues and stay with those morals. But you need to also teach them at the same time. You can't just go straight out of the bag and be mean. You have to be able to teach them.
That is a resoundingly not tried and true, like that is something that hasn't worked ever, like at least in the modern. You need to almost implement their same tactics, because clearly they work, but you need to do it with things that actually matter and are right. We're mean to the people who are trying to cut off kids' penises.
Oh yes, oh, no, I'm not
No,
disputing that. Right,
no,
but we can't.
no, but we're like, let me finish my point. We're mean to the people who are attempting to cut off young men's penises. They're mean to the people who won't let them cut off people's penises. I mean, Matt Walsh is transphobe of the year, as a truly beautiful honor given to him, and Michael Knowles is a genocidal maniac, according to them. because he called for the eradication of transgenderism. That's exactly what I mean. It's not actually mean. It's what they perceive as mean. I don't think it's mean. I don't think there's anything mean or rude about saying something that's true or speaking adamantly against something that is pure evil. You can't be mean or rude to something like that. Those ideologies don't have a right to exist.
Yes, but at the same time, I understand where you're coming from, but they are able to get by with it. They are allowed to be violent. They are allowed to smear you. They are allowed to do everything under the sun because there's always going to be this, I don't want to say omnipotent being, but there's this cabal of elites that are willing to fund it, that will always go to their defense, that will always run spear piece after you, but run piece after piece like CNN's fiery but mostly peaceful protests. They will do everything they can to create this narrative where their side is always good and your side is always bad, and they control the cultural institutions. They control the entertainment industry. They control mainstream industry. The only thing that the right side controls is primarily independent media, like the Daily Wire, like
Twitter
Tim
and Twitter
Pool.
for some reason.
I'm not even going to say Twitter because Elon Musk and his Twitter staff has gone back and forth. Some things has been really good when it comes to free speech, but then in other situations, they are
It,
just as
I'll
bad, if
take
not
it.
worse, as what they
You
used to be.
you you don't use Twitter. I'll go on record saying this. The people who are telling you they're just as bad or worse are honestly kind of crybabies. And I know some of the people are probably the people you like. And as you know, I think a lot of the people you like, including some of the people I like when it comes to Twitter, are really just over the top. That one small issue and they scream, "It's going back to the big tech censorship. They're going back to the ways of the before Elon." And it's all ridiculous because half the time Elon himself will chime in and be like, "This was a mistake. Fix this," and they'll unban someone or something or unmute something. He's working on getting all those kinks out of the system. Elon Musk isn't conservative really by any means, but he's certainly helpful. Like there's nothing wrong with Twitter as it exists. It's he's still working on it, and he's done pretty damn good. A lot of the people who are complaining, they're complaining because they like to complain. A lot of that's a problem with a lot of the people on our side. They like to complain. They always say, and they're right. People love to be victims, but they're a lot of the times they're also guilty of it. They like to be victims themselves. What's his name? DC Drano. Yeah, I like DC Drano, but he's guilty of it. He's absolutely guilty of it at times.
But I do agree that on a scale, it is much better than what it used to be under the old Twitter regime. It's just certain things just going back and forth on it. Like when it came down to the Twitter files, it was phenomenal. Elon was able to give reporters the information that they needed to be able to just show the world about all the terrible things that were going on, such as the government censorship of people going to Twitter saying, "Hey, you need to censor these ideas, you need to censor these narratives," and in order for us to push what we want to push, i.e., Fauci's lab leak debacle. Anyway, I'm not going to go into that because that's a whole other can of worms to go into. But the way they did it was always at the end of the day on a Friday, or on a Saturday, or a Sunday in the middle of the night, usually when there is very little traction whatsoever, so that they're not going to reach the wide amount of people that they could, as if it was released on like a Tuesday morning or a Wednesday morning when the views and all the interaction is at the highest. They always chose the days where people were just tuned out, wanting to just go home, relax, and turn everything off. Not on the days where they're willing to go out and try to read what's going on and see what's going on. That's what I'm talking about for wishy-washy with the way that things were handled.
I don't see that as wishy-washy. I'm trying to find. I was kind of waiting for you to get to a point, and then you just kind of stopped talking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. I was thinking you were still going to talk. I don't even see an ounce of your point.
Well, I mean, it's wishy washy where they come out and Elon's saying, "Hey, we're dumping all this great information. We're going to help fight in the culture war," but he releases it, or I shouldn't say, hey, he releases it. The Twitter files is always released at like weird misconstrued times where no one knows about it unless you are physically on the lookout for it to be able to talk about it. It's late in the day, all at the end of the week when no one really cares anymore. That news stories come out on at the end of the week on a Friday, hell, even sometimes a Thursday or a Saturday, just to die.
I mean, I guess I think that's the type of nitpick that I was just saying that I see coming from these people that, and no disrespect, that I just say shut the fuck up to, like like shut up. That's so medial. Anyone who's gonna be looking for it, they're gonna find it. And I've said, like I said recently, I know you're on the side of, like, people don't have all the time in the world to do this. Things are very easy to look up. We live in the age of information. If you have a fraction of care in your own life and your own well-being and the life of your children and their future, you can take the time to look up Twitter files. As long as you heard about the Twitter files, which the Twitter files were pretty fucking mainstream. Everyone heard about them somewhere, and people had two choices. Their choices were either listen to whatever media outlet says about them, good or bad, and take it at face value, or go read it.
And
And if someone didn't go read it, that's a them problem. That's not Elon's problem, or Mike Tabibi's
Mike
Tahibi, I
Tahibi,
think it is, problem.
yeah.
Mike Tahibi's problem.
I do understand where you come from on that. It's a lot of it just comes down to personal opinion on that. I mean, you have your view on it, I have my view on it, but if you look at the analytics and you look at numbers, I know how Tim Pool talks about it all the time. Fridays are the slowest news day of the week on average, and the only time that he really has anything breaking is when it's a groundbreaking story. That's it. But it's generally at the end of the day on a Friday when everyone's already tuned out.
Yeah. Trying to find the. I'm kind of curious how many views the tweet has.
What tweet?
Fuck, what is his? What is his last name?
Who?
Tabibi? Mike Tabibi? No, not Michael Tabibi, who has no
Taibbi.
profile.
Taibbi.
Spell that.
Uh, I have no idea. I don't know how to spell his last name.
Fair enough. Well, you continue. I'm gonna look for this guy.
What am I going to continue on? Am I going to continue on the Fed deleting evidence or destroying evidence for the January 6th victims? Are we going to talk about Fauci coming up with studies or paying people to do studies to try to discredit the lab leak? What are we going to talk about? Because it's been a pretty spicy news week.
I found a Mike Tabibi.
Taibbi.
Taibbi. Let me just look up Twitter files. I don't know why I didn't just look up Twitter files. God dang it. So, okay. So there's a brief intermission there, yes, but so for example, is there a most popular tweet thing? I guess there is. So the Twitter files have 21 million views.
Yes. Ever since they started being released, what was it,
Ever
6
since
months ago, 7 months ago?
Ever since they started to be released 6 or 7 months ago. That's what I really think ultimately matters.
Yes, no, I'm not disagreeing with you. Once people finally start realizing it, they're going to go look it up.
I gotta get off Twitter. There's a lot of weird shit on Twitter.
There's a lot of weird stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I kind of see your point, but I at the same time I really don't. It's just and again, um, I'm pretty ingrained into this. I actively seek out this stuff, and sure, everybody doesn't have the time to go nitpick and look through every single little detail, but you need to take control of your life. Everyone needs to do a little bit of research. It doesn't take a lot of time. We live in the information age. You don't need to go read 75 different books. You can go listen to Jordan Peterson talk for 25 minutes. Check a Matt Walsh video, Michael Knowles, Brett Cooper, and you can get a pretty decent idea at least. I would encourage to go still read articles and stuff, but I don't think it's very difficult to get an idea of things that are going on.
But at the same time, when you grow up hearing from your parents all the time that you need to watch CNN or Fox News or MSNBC or ABC, all the mainstream, like, iconic news sources, or you need to go read NPR, listen to NPR, or read the New York Times, New York Post, Washington Post. The majority of the time, what you're going to see is nothing but lies. You're going to see nothing but narratives. So for your average everyday person who only knows what they've been told to read or who to read, and those mainstream media outlets don't cover anybody except for they don't cover independent media except for most of the time negatively, except for Fox News, who is ironically NewsGuard certified, whereas MSNBC is not NewsGuard certified. They are labeled as what was it they used? Opinion based and not very factual based. Yes.
Yeah, editorial.
So you're going to see that people are going to fall under the branch of trying to go more under mainstream focus, whether it's good or bad, until they get out of the matrix. And it's very hard to pull people out of the matrix.
Andrew Tate. Yeah, I guess they're in the Matrix. I guess they're Neo in the Matrix.
Well, no, that's the easiest way I can put it.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. God, I hate hearing people be like they're in the Matrix.
Well, I mean,
I have a pair of nunchucks.
That the only way for normal, I don't want to really call them it, but the only way normies can really understand a lot of what we talk about is to use references that they might be able to understand. I mean, hell, look at the Trump very fine people hoax, where CNN and all those news outlets, even Fox News, was trying to say that he was calling the white supremacists very fine people. When if you dug a little bit deeper and tried to find the transcripts for it, which was hard depending on the algorithm of the day, he didn't call the white supremacists very fine people. He was talking about the very fine people protesting him. He was not talking about white supremacists at all. It was just innately false. And how many people to this day still cite the very fine people hoax?
Well, it's also like how people still cite that he made fun of a disabled reporter.
Yes.
That just didn't happen. But I mean, again, like for that, again, just go watch him talk. That's probably easier than going to read. Keep Fox News on in the background. Even if you kept CNN on in the background, if they're showing the live view. Because what was that at? Was that at a normal rally or was that at somewhere important?
No, that was after he was just inaugurated as president, I believe.
Yeah, I mean that's something if you ask me, every American should be watching, no matter who it is. Joe Biden, fucking President Trump, no matter what. It's an important thing to watch. At least catch it the next day.
I don't disagree with that. As much as I dislike Joe Biden, I will still listen to his speeches. I still listen to the State of the Union speech.
Well, you have to, because you take control of your own life by listening to things like that. I know it's real easy, like you say, people don't have the time. They want to focus on other things. I mean, I get that, but this is the real world.
But
This
this
is the
is
real world where you need to pay attention to your life and the things around you. It may not be comfortable for you. It may not be what you want to do. Like in reality, you think I want to have to fight to try to get people to not cut off little boys' penises or cut off a girl's perfectly healthy breast. That's there are better uses of my time if that was not going on in the world.
but at the
But
same
that
time,
is going on in the world. So it's the fight I have to be in.
this is the fight that you and I have to be in. We
That's
need
what I
to
just
we
said.
need to, no, I'm agreeing with you. What I'm saying is that you and I, we have to be in the know. We want to be in the fight. We have to be up to date on everything that's going on, so that when we do talk to people who don't know what's going on, we can try to inform them on it. Now, when we
Indeed.
inform them on it, that's it. Then comes up to them on whether or not they want to listen or not or go after it. But I don't expect them to know every little thing that's going on in the world. That's what you're supposed to use people who you trust to be able to kind of give you a news blurb for the day. And if it piques your interest, then you go look into it a little bit further. I mean, I'm a huge
That's the
avid.
best way to do it. I mean, no one has to know everything that's going on in the world. I don't give a shit what's going on in France. I could
No, no,
honestly
no.
care
When
less
I'm
about
saying
what's
the
going on.
world,
No, I know.
I'm
I know. I'm just saying. Like, I get what you're saying. What you're saying is right. I'm just saying. Yeah, no one needs to know everything. I don't give a shit what's going on in France. I kind of give a shit what's going on in China, but not that much. I don't give a shit what's going on in Germany. None of it is really relevant to me. Um, you do have to pay attention in your own bubble. You again, same type of deal. You won't know everything, but you need to know a lot, and that's for your own safety
I mean,
and your families.
that's also where I think that we all have decent traction, is because I focus on a lot of things that you generally don't, and all of us, you, myself, and Wyatt, Trevor, all have very, very differing opinions on a lot of things. We agree on the same principle morals, but we're all very different on the way we go about expressing those views.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that would make sense. And I'd say that's a good place to end it. We've kind of gone really far off track, but it worked out in the end.
Yeah, Civil War culture, it's just the two of us. There's only so much that we can try to hash out and say the same thing over and over again in different ways.
Yeah, I think we ran into a little bottleneck there when you finished talking while I was still looking for the Twitter files because I couldn't figure out how to spell Tabibi's name.
Taibbi. Taibbi.
Ta- Taibbi.
Taibbi. Matt Taibbi.
Taibbi. I see. I follow him, but I don't on our Twitter, and I'm logged into our Twitter on my computer.
Another good one is Jack Posobiec. He is a
Well,
phenomenal
yeah.
news reporter.
Again, follow. Actually, I might have him on our Twitter. On my Twitter I have him. I don't have him on ours. I should just copy my follow list. I should just go onto my Twitter and copy my follow list. All right, but anyway, I say that does it. Do you have any final words of encouragement?
Don't be black-pilled. As dark and grim as the country may be right now, you got to try to stay hopeful and stay realistic, stay in the know, and do whatever you can to keep you and your family safe.
I would agree. I think there's absolutely no productivity in any sort of black pill. So with that though, I think we should end it. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I personally think that we can go places. Honestly, this video ran a little long here. We definitely got to do shorter ones when we're recording. So we should probably have a little more planning beforehand. That's between us though. But anyways, again, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll talk to you later.
Yep. Peace out.